My friends, it's good to see everybody. Congratulations again on the film. I'd love to kick us off with a question for everyone. A role is something on the page, but then it often becomes something a lot more when you're on set. And I'm curious for each of you, what is something essential or surprising that you discovered about your character while you were filming? And Leo, I'll come to you first, since you're here.
Paul sets up that ecosystem for us. He gives us the backstory. I mean, I knew that this character was based on the Weather Underground. There was this book called Days of Rage, late 1960s revolutionaries, modern day context. But then he does a tremendous amount of wrecking and location scouting. So then you get to integrate yourself into the sort of culture and the community of these locations that I felt like played a huge part, because we got to work with a tremendous amount of first-time actors, real shop owners. The military was real military, the corrections officers, the nurses. So it brings this kind of life to the character. And I think one of the first things that made me realize who Bob was when we went up north to this place that I'd never been in Northern California called Eureka. And I was like, wow, well, there's a whole culture of people here that are kind of, as Paul likes to call them, hipnecks. They're like hippies, but they're also rednecks, and they don't tread on my land, get off my property, but, I'm woke. And I was like, oh, maybe that's Bob,
Right on. Teyana, what about for you?
No, I have to agree. I think it was really dope. For me, on the paper, it was already raw. It was already a wild ride, because PTA knew what he wanted and what he wanted to do. So I think us being able to allow those words to leave the paper and make those words, turn those words into action, just made it even doper. You know what I'm saying? Because it's but so much, especially when you have the chaos to be determined on a paper. It's just like, okay, well, what is going to be happening on set? So when you get on set, it's like a playground, and it's playtime,
And Chase, what about for you when that chaos actually comes together on set and you're filming? Like, how does that what do you discover something new about your performance and your character?
I think that the thing I discovered quickly is how Willa's stamina is almost never ending. And trying to keep up with that was a workout in itself. But I think also getting to quietly observe Teyana and Leo and just kind of pick up pieces from them. And with further conversations with Paul, I really got to see the full scope and the growth and confidence of Willa.
Sean, what about for you when you got to set and you started filming as Lockjaw? You do a terrific job, sir. What was something maybe new that you discovered about him while you were filming?
It was more of a question. I just didn't understand how I wasn't more often considered for romantic comedy. That's my answer.
This is a good answer. Regina, what about for you?
I'm sorry, I'm still pondering Sean's answer.
Yeah.
It's curious. Probably, Deandra was a lot more grounding than I think I had anticipated, because, at first Paul was like, well, we're going to go. And this is a real place, the nuns who smoke weed and who have an ode to the plant. They're called Sisters of... I'm going to get it. Y'all can write it down.
The Brave Beaver.
Sisters of the what?
The Brave Beaver.
Well, no, that's in the movie.
Yeah.
You remember
Bob
the name?
was so happy he finally remembered something. He said, I don't remember the time, but I remember the sisters.
You couldn't get that password, but you got Brave Beaver. But anyway, they are real, and I think discovering some real, like Leo said, pockets, in the world, that they really do that. I think we met them. And so I think just kind of discovering new communities that are positive. They have a lot of medicinal things. So it's, they really grow it organically. I mean, it's very... I'm not doing a sales pitch, but it is one of the places that I would trust.
Yes. Yeah, they're growing weeds.
You would trust, huh?
We trust them.
You would trust Regina? Okay.
Benicio, what about for you? Did you feel like being around all of these non-actors sort of helped you find more authenticity in the performance?
Yeah. But going back to the first question, when Paul talked to me about the character, which is something that I remember maybe a couple days ago, which is he sent a picture of a poster of a tiger dressed in a judo kimono. And then that was the description, and that's all I knew about the character. I guess it did make sense in some ways, emotionally maybe, but that's how Paul was communicating right off the bat, you know.
A tiger in a kimono. You know, I think the magic of this film is you all deliver incredible, unique performances, but I also think when you come together as an ensemble, it is pure magic. And I think Paul gives you so many different looks at all of you opposite one another, and I'd love to get into that a little bit. And Teyana, I'll start with you, because early on in this film, you have these sort of dueling relationships with Sean's character and Leo's character. I love the physicality of your performance, especially the scene where you're in the bathroom stall and you're trying to get out, because I feel like Perfidia doesn't say anything in that scene, but she tells you everything about who she is and what she believes in the way she maneuvers out of that stall. So I'd love for you to talk about working with both Sean and Leo to sort of craft these two distinct relationships that are very opposite one another, but when put together, they fuel the entire story moving forward.
That's a good question. For me, I feel like good conversation is important, you know, to scope out what this scene is going to be, what it's going to look like, what the movements are going to feel like. And again, I know I keep saying playground, but we play, you know, it's a lot of different takes. One take, he was like, give me my hat and my gun. And when he said it, I said it, I was like, my hat and my gun. You know, like I was very clear on that. So it just really depends on like, you know, what we're feeling, you know, in that moment. But I think, you know, as a team, we come together and we figure out how we do it. The same thing with me and Lee. You know, we just kind of play around and we see what works and really made a best take win.
Sean, I'd love to come to you too about working with Teyana and Chase. You have some pretty supercharged sequences that bookend the film. You know, Colonel Lockjaw's relationship with Perfidia is a little bit more, you know, lustful intensity. And then with Chase, there's more rage, you know, that's born from his desperation, you know, maybe his regret. So I'd be curious if you could talk about working with the two women and maybe what's something that deepened your understanding of who Lockjaw was and what he was about by working with the two of them.
It was very immediately clear with Teyana and Chase, with whom I was probably least familiar with their work than the others, that these were extremely strong and inventive actors, and that there was something that was, I could relax knowing I'm going to get surprised in each take. Beyond that, I've had a feeling since I read the script, more than, say, I have had in the past, at least as I recall. This experience reading the script that I'm kind of militantly abiding by. So, which is that I don't want anybody to have a less surprising experience. So I don't want to be quoted having said anything about it relative to the narrative. But they were great. It was the whole thing was a gift to be working with this group and with Paul.
Yeah, and I've heard you say that it kind of revived your love of the craft and of filmmaking. And you know, what about that Paul Thomas Anderson experience? I sort of, you know, brings that to you, would you say?
Well, I think I like to work with wood a lot, and I typically think in terms of scrap wood because that's what's around. You don't have to think it out or plan. But when someone hands you a really fine cut of mahogany or something, it's another experience, and that's what this kind of writing paired with this kind of casting. You know, where you get there and I just met you on the page, but oh boy, you're really here now, and that it was like that with this top to bottom, and also the crew on this movie.
You know, Leo, I also wanted to ask you about working with Teyana and Chase. And I think what's so impressive about your performance is that when you're opposite Teyana, you know, you're Ghetto Pat, you're Rocket Man, you're kind of this idealistic revolutionary. Opposite Chase, you're like this burnout dad who's on the run. And so there's two like very complex and different performances from you for the same character. And so I'd love for you to just talk about working with each of them and how maybe something that you learned from each of them that helped kind of inform your performance a little bit more.
Well, again, I have to go back to the structure and the ecosystem that Paul created, which is the idea of my character being this sort of unreliable protagonist and is almost like an extra in the first part of the movie. I love the fact that I'm pulling, you know, a wheelbarrow full of weird explosives, and she's the dynamic, you know, revolutionary that leaves carnage for every single character in the movie. I mean, this idea of this dynamic revolutionary that leaves me absolutely a broken man, him a broken man. And then the phase two is how, you know, and I don't think these two got to work together that much, but I think she was informed so much by the dynamism that Teyana brought to this character. You know, there was like the next generation, the DNA of her mother's passed through, and she has this whole evolution in her own right of becoming her own woman. And the idea of, you know, that last line in the film, which you all saw, "Be careful, I won't," you know. But Teyana brought just this ability to improvise and dynamism to the character that as soon as Paul mentioned her name, I knew that we'd have to hold on tight. And it was beautiful to watch Chase come into an ecosystem like this, because I remember my first feature-length film, and this trust is so much in the director. You know, the director is literally everything to you, and that bond started immediately with the two of them. Benicio likes to say it was like watching a great, you know, boxer with the boxing coach, and they gave each other small signals and nods and yeses and nos, and then they continued on. They had this sort of unspoken relationship that was beautiful to witness. It reminded me of when I was younger in my first film.
That's awesome. Chase, for you, you know, this is your feature film debut. How did this incredible ensemble help guide you through that while also allowing you to have that space to kind of take risks and take chances and discover this character on your own?
I think that the strongest thing that I felt was just love from everybody, like from Leo and Teyana and Sean and Regina and Benicio, and then not to mention Paul. I was just surrounded by so much love and support from day one, and then the entire crew. And I think that having that and then an overall understanding of trust and knowing that Paul trusts me, I trust Paul, and then I trust every single one of my scene partners. I think the love and the trust more than anything helped me feel confident to play and to thrive in the environment that was a bit scary walking into, but in the end, it was the best experience I could have ever gotten.
Was there a moment where you kind of paused and you looked around and you're like, wow, I'm like the star of the Paul Thomas Anderson's next movie with Leo and Teyana and Sean? Like, was there a moment on set where it kind of hit you that way?
Not really, no. It's actually kind of hitting me right now. I think all of those moments are literally happening post watching the film and getting to promote it. So I'm still like processing the whole thing.
Still processing it all. Well, you crushed it and you did a terrific job.
That's my baby, y'all.
For Regina and Benicio, your characters are a bit quieter. There's this kind of quiet intensity. I think Benicio, there's sort of this humor born out of that quiet intensity. And I'm curious, you know, for both of you, how you kind of craft a role that is quieter, yet it's just as compelling as a role that's more action forward and has more physicality to it. Regina, I'll start with you, actually.
Well, I'll let him say it, but before I forget, it's Sisters of the Valley.
Sisters of the Valley. There it is.
Okay. Well, I think Paul puts the actors in this situations that, and with a sense of, for this the part of the story that I'm in with Leo, urgency. And that urgency creates for some truth and comedy to come out of being in the moment. And so I think that that's what made it funny. I don't think I was being funny, or I did laugh off camera with Leo quite a bit, but on camera we were just trying to be in the moment. And Paul was really quick to pivot with ideas or suggestions, probably quicker than any director I've ever worked with, any writer director. And that allowed it for, I think, both of us or any of the actors here sitting here to really feel comfortable and willing to try things and know that there's a safety net there, because Paul really enjoys the process of the actors, and that makes it quite a really fun place to be.
Yeah, well, yeah, Deandra, she was probably the somber one of the group, I would have to say. But her girl then left and rolled out, left her with the baby, didn't come back. Yes, I have to tell you, Perfidia, you were a terrible friend. And but she loves Perfidia. But I think the movie has so much action, and there's so much laughter. There's a lot of laughter. So much action, and I think when there are breaks and you have to kind of grasp the gravitas of what is really happening in the film. I mean, that was Deandra's function, I think, role. I mean, I think, when you're in a movie, everyone playing and being their role is really pivotal. And so I think, Paul helped me probably grasp the importance of those quieter moments.
There's so many incredible action sequences in this film, and Leo, I particularly love the sequence kind of with Benicio escaping from Lockjaw and his cronies. It's a brilliant sequence with the piano score underneath it, the entire thing. And I'd be curious about that sequence. And it really is kind of one battle after another. That's the title of the movie. That sequence is one battle after another. Do you have a favorite moment of that sequence? If you can talk about sort of bringing it all together. And, I personally like the moment where Sensei yells out 8:15 when he's on the phone saying, "What time is it?" Because that just is a really great example of the humor born out of the chaos of this film. I also love the rooftop chase, but do you have a favorite moment of that entire sequence?
Not particularly. I just love the concept. I mean, to me, one great idea can dictate the narrative of an entire movie and a character. And that one great idea was, okay, let's set up this guy who's got past skills in espionage that you think is going to save the day, and he can't even remember the damn password. Yeah. He can't get off of his couch. He's smoking pot on his couch, and he's perpetually trying to find the password. Then he does lock in, and he's supposed to move forward, you think he's going to be able to, have victorious moments again, and he falls off the roof immediately and gets tased, gets thrown in prison, and then they immediately almost get arrested again. I mean, every time we came up to these moments where we thought we were going to take and by the way, I as an actor kind of had this expectation, I think, during the process, well, there's going to be a moment where something happens, where he does something right. And we kept pushing that up to the exact moment on location, talking what Benicio said of his malleability and how he pivots. We were there and okay, what feels right? And right to the very end, we're like, no, it's got to be Chase's character that takes the brunt of my character's history. It's on to the next generation now, and your heroism is that you're a father and you're there for her in the moment. And I said, wow, that's an incredible concept. That's a great idea, and it's unique, and that's what makes Paul, that he does things that are unexpected.
It is a film with many battles. And so as we wrap up, I'd love to ask each of you, in a film with many battles, what would you consider your greatest personal victory? What are you most proud of as you walk away from this experience? Benicio. I'm going to start with you.
Thinking about it, that's my greatest battle. I think, I think being part of this film and being part of a film that I'm very proud of, and I think that was one. Every movie is a battle. Every movie is a different story, a different director, a different cast, and when it comes together, kind of like this one comes together, that's one battle we won. We might never win the war, but we win one battle after another. Yeah. Maybe we'll win the war.
Regina, for you? Yeah, for sure.
That was so good. Don't come to me, because I'm going to mirror everything he said. He ate that last line up. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know what? I think everyone, I love everyone here, so working with all of them, and they were difficult. It was very hard for me. I'm joking, they were great. But I think probably being able to be a part of it, as an actor, you have things that you goals that you want to achieve, but you can't necessarily, it's day by day, job by job, choice by choice, and so I think when you get to a point where you get to work with people who you get to learn, from, and work with a director who you probably never thought you would ever work with, and then you get it and it's done. I feel like the battles started more before the film started. It was like this, and then there was the strike, and then it was postponed. But I think actually getting it done and being able to meet and work with everybody here.
Right on. Sean, for you, is there anything that you're specifically most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, my high point, and it happened here, 10 minutes ago, and I don't expect to top it, was when I realized it afterwards, that I was able to, in this day and age, get away with this particular company saying how great it was to work with a fine piece of mahogany, and nobody gasped. So that's it from that. I'll go with that.
Yeah, I feel it. No, I feel you. I feel you. Miss Chase Infiniti.
I think the thing I'm the most proud of is, more than anything, I was so grateful to be a part of the experience, and it was something I never could have imagined getting to do with the people on stage and with Paul. But I think I'm the most proud of the fact that I did it, and I'm proud of my work, and I'm proud of how it looks, and I didn't stand in my way. So I think I'm the most proud of what I did.
Yeah, right on.
Again, I have to agree with everybody. I'm so proud of the overall outcome. I'm proud of just to know where I was in life, mentally and emotionally, and taking on this role was a battle. Taking on this role nearly kept me alive. So, it kept me alive. So I think being able to be around this village and, that I consider my family was amazing. And it's also a full circle moment to be able to watch it and be here in New York, where I'm from.
Let's go, New York.
To be that little girl that was sitting in the seats and hope that one day I see myself on that screen, now to be sitting up here on the screen and in front of my fellow New Yorkers, it's amazing. And I'm just so grateful that I get to share the same space as these wonderful people, share the same, just everything, just to be able to sit in this chair and look this way and I look that way and I just see this beautiful cast and this beautiful family, and even with you, to be able to sit here with you is amazing. To be able to sit here with y'all is amazing, and it's something that I don't take lightly. I'm so blessed, and I'm so grateful.
Thank you. Leo, take us home.
I think that there are generational directors. I think we all feel blessed to be a part of his filmography, to be a part of a film that in the great classics like Spielberg mentioned Dr. Strangelove, that used satire to talk about issues that are topical, that hold a mirror up to the world that we live in, what we're going through, but done with great laughs, great drama, great comedy, and doesn't feel like it has political agenda or is like taking medicine. You're just enveloped in these very flawed characters that are trying to find some semblance of humanity. Just to look back at this time, I'm gonna look back at this time with great reverence and pride that we got to do a film like this, because I've said it before, but films like this don't normally get made.
Right on. And I'll say it again. Congratulations. This is the best film of the year. You all crushed it. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.